Chapter 14. The Silence Between Hooves. The road began like a promise. Soft soil, damp moss, pine needles that gave underfoot and kept her quiet. Rose walked beside the column where the forest still offered cover, where trees bent, close enough to feel like walls, where the earth still spoke in a language she understood. Hooves struck in steady rhythm. Wagon wheels carved shallow lines into the ground. Men murmured in low voices, not quite relaxed, not quite tense, but moving forward. And for a while the ground hummed with it, familiar, crowded, alive. Rose kept her gaze ahead and her pace even, cloak brushing the backs of her ankles, bare feet sinking into loam with each step like the earth was letting her borrow its balance. She didn't look at Cale. She didn't need to. His presence moved differently, controlled, quiet in the wrong way, like a hand hovering near a throat without closing. She focused instead on the things that didn't lie. Alaric's laughter drifting near the horses, Darius's steady command at the front, the earth beneath her, recording every footfall, every weight shift, every truth no one said aloud, until the road changed. It always did. The forest thinned after midday. The ground dried. The soft loam turned to packed track, then gravel, and then stone, flat stretches of old roadwork that held no warmth and gave no answer back. The first time her foot met it, Rose didn't react. Not outwardly. She just felt the hum beneath her go faint, like a voice moving farther away. Like trying to listen through a door. She kept walking anyway. Because walking was what she did. Because stopping made people notice. And being noticed had never been safe. The sun climbed and the day stretched thin. She kept her shoulders straight. Kept her breathing even. Kept her steps measured so no one could count how much it hurt. The ache started in her soles. A dull burn that she could ignore if she didn't think too hard about it. But Stone didn't forgive. And the longer she walked, the more the pain sharpened into something that crawled up. Her legs, small bruises blooming under skin that had learned endurance the way other people learned prayer. Alaric rode beside her, reins loose, gaze sliding down now and then like he was trying not to look like he was watching. "You know," he said lightly, "if you keep that up, your feet are going to file a formal complaint." Rose didn't look up. "They can." Alaric's grin widened. "Ah, a rebellious pair then. I should have guessed." She tried to smile. It almost worked. Alaric tilted his head, studying her profile like he wasn't fooled by calm. "You want me to say it?" he asked. Rose's eyes flicked toward him. "Say what?" "That you've been limping since the third stone patch." Rose's stomach tightened. It wasn't the accusation. It was the fact that he'd noticed. She lifted her chin slightly. "I'm fine." Alaric hummed. "I've met men with arrows in their ribs who said the same thing." Rose's mouth twitched faintly despite herself. He watched that flicker like it mattered. Then his voice gentled, just enough to be dangerous. "You don't have to do that here, you know." "Do what?" "Pretend you aren't hurting." Rose's fingers curled in her cloak. She didn't answer, because the truth was a thing with teeth, and she had spent too many years learning how to keep it behind her teeth. Ahead, Darius slowed without turning fully, as if he'd heard nothing and everything. Rose. The name still hit her strangely like something that belonged to her only when spoken softly. She looked up. "You're falling behind," Darius said. "I'm not," she started automatically. Then the next step landed wrong. Stone bit. Her ankle wavered a fraction. Not enough for most to see, enough for Darius. His gaze flicked down once, mud-stained ankles, toes that had gone too still between steps. The careful way she placed her weight, like the road might punish her for choosing wrong. He didn't scold. He didn't soften into pity either. He just made the truth possible. "You don't have to prove endurance to me," he said quietly. "Not like that." Rose swallowed. Because those words didn't sound like charity. They sounded like permission. And permission was something she didn't know how to hold without flinching. She walked 3 more steps with her throat tight, as if she could outpace the need. But her body didn't care about pride. Her body remembered. It remembered being told that asking was weakness, that needing help made you a problem, that problems got punished. The road stretched. The horses breathed. The column moved on like time itself, and Rose felt something inside her shift, small, terrified, stubborn. A newer instinct, a quieter courage. "Captain," she said. Her voice came out softer than she meant. Darius turned his head slightly. Rose stared at the reins in his hands instead of his eyes, because if she looked at his face, she might lose it. "Can I ride?" she asked. The words tasted strange, foreign, like a language she'd never been allowed to speak. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. No laughter, no sharp reply, no punishment. Just wind, just road, just a pause where the world waited. Darius's answer came simple. Yes. Rose blinked once. Alaric exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for her. Rose's fingers tightened around the edge of her cloak. Then quieter, almost like confession. I've never... Her voice caught. She cleared her throat. I've never been on a horse. Alaric's grin faded at the edges. Not into pity, into something warmer, something that looked dangerously like understanding. Darius didn't react like it was odd. He reacted like it mattered. All right, he said. Then we do it slowly. Rose's shoulders went tight anyway, an old reflex that had nothing to do with horses. Darius dismounted. His boots hit the road with a firm, steady sound. He approached without crowding her, hands visible, posture controlled. The horse won't hurt you, he said, as if he could see the way her body had gone braced, waiting. And neither will I. Rose's breath hitched, quick and quiet. Something old flashed through her mind. Hands grabbing too hard, voices turning sharp, being lifted like an object and punished for flinching. Her fingers went cold. Then she forced them to move. She nodded once. Darius took the reins, murmured low to the horse until it stilled, then offered his hand, open, not demanding. Rose hesitated. Then she placed her palm in his. The contact was brief, steady. He guided her up with practiced ease. One hand at her waist only when she needed it, like even help. Could be given with respect. Rose's breath left her in a shaky exhale when she settled into the saddle. Higher than she'd ever been. The world looked different from here. Distant, less certain. She gripped the strap with one hand and the reins with the other like she was afraid. They'd vanish if she didn't. Hold tight enough. Alaric leaned closer from his mount. Voice light again, not mocking, just trying to keep her from disappearing inside her own fear. See, he said. You're doing it. Terrifying, heroic, and only slightly likely to murder us all if you panic. Rose let out a small sound that almost counted as a laugh. Be quiet, she muttered. Alaric grinned. There she is. But Rose wasn't listening to him. She was listening for the earth, for the hum, for the pulse that always steadied her. She angled her chin downward instinctively, searching for the comfort beneath the road, and found distance, not silence exactly, just muffled, like the earth's voice had dropped behind walls, like trying to feel a heartbeat through thick cloth. Her stomach tightened. It wasn't the height that unsettled her. It was the separation, the loss of that constant truth under her feet. Rose's fingers tightened on the reins. Alaric's voice softened, as if he understood without being told. Still with us? He asked. Rose swallowed. Yes, she said, but the quiet beneath her felt like stepping into a room and realizing the door had closed behind her. Darius mounted again and signaled the column forward. We'll take a slower pace, he said, until you're steady. Rose nodded. And this time, she didn't apologize. She sat straighter, held the reins like something she was allowed to hold, and let herself be carried, just for a while, by a strength that wasn't hers. The afternoon drifted by under a canopy of pale sky. The column moved in steady rhythm, hooves thudding soft against packed earth, wagon wheels carving shallow memory into the road. Leather creaked. Harnesses shifted. The sound of travel settled into something almost hypnotic. Rose sat the saddle like a borrowed place, not alone. Darius rode with her, steady behind, one gloved hand on the reins, the other close enough that if the horse jolted, he could anchor her without grabbing. His presence was quiet discipline at her back, the kind that didn't demand anything from her except to stay upright. Each sway of the horse pulled her between balance and awkwardness, and she kept her hands tight on the strap, as if the world might tip without warning. The ground below felt distant, its hum muffled, far away, like listening through water. She hated that, not because she feared the height, because she feared the quiet. Ahead, the road unspooled like a thin ribbon through fields and scattered trees. Darius's posture stayed calm, fixed, like the horizon itself was something to be managed. Beside them, Alaric lingered at an easy pace, reins loose in one hand, riding like the road had been built for him. His hair moved with the wind, not too long, not too short, just enough to look like he'd stepped out of a song and never bothered to fix it. He glanced up at Rose, grin easy. You know, he said, I think you've got the makings of a real knight. Rose blinked down at him, startled. Alaric's grin widened. Sure, you don't have a sword or armor or a horse you actually control, but that's just details. The joke landed warmer than it should have. A sound slipped out of Rose before she could catch it. Not loud, not perfect, but real. Alaric brightened instantly, catching it like victory. "Ah," he said, satisfied. "There it is. Thought I'd never hear that." Rose's mouth twitched again, and she looked away quickly, like the road might judge her for letting something light exist. "I don't know what you're talking about," she murmured. Alaric gasped dramatically. Denial, a classic tactic. Rose rolled her eyes, softly, almost shy. And when she did, the color in her gaze shifted without permission. Pale blue, melting toward gold for a heartbeat, threaded with something warm, like sunlight caught in storm water. Alaric noticed. Of course he did. He didn't say it right away. He just watched her a moment longer, grin softening into something quieter. "Your eyes do that," he said, tone casual on purpose. "Change, I mean." Rose's fingers tightened on the strap. "Do what?" Alaric shrugged. Like it didn't matter. Like he hadn't just named something she hadn't even fully noticed in herself. "When you're feeling something real," he said. They stopped trying to hide. Rose's throat went tight, because she didn't know how to respond to being seen like that. So she did the only thing she could. She turned it into a joke. "Don't tell anyone," Rose said playfully, almost daring herself. "I've got a reputation for being invisible." Alaric scoffed. "Terrible reputation. You're awful at it." The wind tugged at Rose's hair. The horse stepped steady beneath her. Behind her, Darius adjusted the reins with a quiet, practiced movement, subtle, controlled, keeping the pace smooth. Like he could sense the exact moment the road might steal her balance. And for a moment, just a moment, Rose forgot to brace for punishment. She let herself smile. Alaric lifted his brows like he'd won something sacred. "You know," he said, "I'm starting to think you've been dangerous this whole time." Rose frowned faintly. "Dangerous?" Alaric nodded toward her, mock serious. "Yeah, you make people breathe again." "It's reckless." Rose huffed a laugh, small, disbelieving. The sound drifted down the line of riders like a soft bell. Darius didn't turn his head, but she felt it anyway, the smallest shift behind her, the way his shoulders eased by a fraction, as if he'd heard it and decided to let it exist. Further back, Cale rode in silence. His gaze cut forward once, sharp, measuring. He didn't smile, but something in his posture shifted, like a man noticing a door opening that he hadn't planned for. Rose didn't see any of it. She only felt the horse beneath her, the steady presence behind her, the distance from the earth, and the strange new truth that somehow frightened her more than pain ever had. She could laugh, and the world didn't strike her for it. The road stretched on, hooves, leather, breath, and beneath it all, the earth's voice stayed far away, muffled, patient, waiting for her feet to touch it again.